Hi, Peggy. Good morning to you. How are you?
Hi, super good. Nice to see you, Nicolette.
Nice to see you too, Peggy. Thank you so much for saying yes to be interviewed today. Now, I would like to introduce myself formally. My name is Nicolette. I am from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia right now, residing here. And I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. Let me introduce you to our listener today. So, hello everyone. We have Peggy Van De Plassche
Yes.
today with us. Now, when we think of psychedelic mushrooms, the first thing our mind jumps to could be hippies and recreational use, spiritual awakening, or recent legalization in some states. Our minds don't usually combine psychedelics with our careers, nonetheless enhance performance in the workplace. As a top business and finance professional turned microdosing expert, Peggy is changing the conversation and explaining how microdosing is making its way into the boardroom. She explains why top CEOs like herself are reaching the microdose diet to enhance performance in their career. Wow, I am intrigued. I need the rundown on everything, Peggy.
Thank you, Nicolette. I'm very happy to answer any question. I always love to listen to introductions because not everyone is interested by the same thing. So it's always very interesting to see your angle. So yeah, looking forward to answering anything and everything.
Thank you. Okay, before we get into the serious stuff, first things first, I'd like to take my listeners and the guest, himself or herself, down a trip down memory lane. Can you share with us what was it like growing up as Peggy Van De Plassche?
Thank you, Nicolette. Well, listen, I'm from France originally, even if I live in Canada, and I come from a small town, very industrial, very Catholic. So, and I was born in the 70s. So let's say it was not an environment very supportive of women. And I come from a background that was pretty poor, like a single mother, subsidized housing, this type of thing. So I was not really predestined to become a business person. I was more predestined to stay in my small town, marry young, have children, that type of life. So, from the youngest age, I've always knew I wanted more and really wanted to get the most out of my life. And that's what has been driving me my entire life. And this interest in microdosing and in psychedelics is actually coming from this constant ambition and desire for more. And it's not just more money, it's also like more life, more excitement, more adventure, all of that. So I think that's really more, that's that word that has been driven my life, despite circumstances that were not really supportive of wanting more out of my life.
Wow. Okay. Now, so many questions that I have in my head right now. Okay, so what is your backstory that led you into psychedelic? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's a weird story, but it's also I would say quite personal. So I used to work in finance. So for 20 years I was in finance, was quite successful, exec at large organization, venture capitalist. So like the check the box, check the box, check the box.
Right.
And I loved finance and all of that. But the challenge was I used to have a lot of anxiety. A lot of anxiety, stress, PTSD as well from some challenges in my childhood, but also depression. But I was not acutely aware of that because I've always had these problems. So for me, it was my baseline. But it got very bad during the pandemic, and I looked for options in order to help me. And the options you have are pretty limited. It's whether you go the traditional healthcare route, which means therapy, which I had tried with not a lot of success, or prescribed drugs. And I didn't really like prescribed medicines because it hides the symptoms. It manages the symptoms. It doesn't cure you.
You're
It
the root.
doesn't exactly, it doesn't solve the problem. And that's so I started doing a lot of research, and I was in finance, and a lot of publications I was reading, The Economist, Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, they were all publishing articles on mushrooms and how psychedelics can help you with your performance, but also your mental health. So I decided that seems like it's a sign of the universe that I should look in that direction. So I did a lot of research because, like many people, I had brainwashing the stigma. Psychedelics are evil. You're gonna have hallucination. It's just for young people going to rave. Like all these things.
Yes.
And I realized that actually it's a very, very helpful medicine, and that it was actually prescribed in the US in the 60s. There was a lot of research, and then Nixon banned them. And so now we're looking at it and it's like, oh, a big evil. Well,
Mm-hmm.
actually, it's just how it had been framed in terms of marketing.
Yeah.
So, and that's how I started. And I never looked back because the results were so amazing. And I was just like, my God. And I changed career because of that. Yeah.
Oh my God. Changing career into the space of psychedelics. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, Peggy. So what is microdosing?
Yeah. So, it's micro dosing. It's just taking tiny dosage of a substance. And it can be any substance. It doesn't have to be psychedelics. I heard people telling me they are microdosing Ozempic, like the weight
Yeah.
loss drug. So it is just think when you take omega-3 or vitamin C every morning. Well, you're microdosing
Right.
omega-3 or vitamin C. You're just taking a tiny dose. That's exactly that.
Wow. Okay. So how do you do that? Like, do you integrate it with your diet, or is it what in what form do you take it in?
Yeah, so you have multiple forms. You can have it obviously, and I'm talking about magic mushrooms in the type of mushrooms, dry
Right.
mushrooms.
Right.
You can have it in edible, meaning like chocolate gummies that have been, pre-mixed already.
Right.
But you can also have it as a cap, you know. And I like cap because you can also have additional elements to it. So I even started my own brand. And so you have some magic mushroom, but you also have some adaptogen. So, for example, lion's mane for your brain, ginger tea for inflammation, so things like that, that's going to make it even better, kind of. And you just take your pill every 2 or 3 days, depending on the schedule you're following. I
Right.
take I take it every 3 days, and
Mm-hmm.
you should have 100 milligram of
Mm-hmm.
psilocybin, no more. If you have more than that, then you're gonna start feeling the effects of feeling a bit woozy. So
Right.
100 milligram, it's not different than taking your omega-3. You feel absolutely nothing. There is no eye, there is no hallucination. You're just taking it and you're going on with your day.
Wow. Okay. Amazing. So I think you mentioned the term psilocybin, right? Am I
Yes,
pronouncing it correctly? I'm
absolutely.
pronouncing okay.
Yeah.
So this type of psychedelics, they are safe. Yes.
Well, the beauty with psychedelics is that they are not addictive
Mm-hmm.
and you cannot overdose on them. So it is actually, when you think about it, way safer than most substance you
Right.
can buy or you can get prescribed by your doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So it is obviously, like most things, not recommended if you're pregnant,
Right.
if you're breastfeeding, like things like that, which is, I would say, common sense. But
Yeah.
otherwise, yes, it's absolutely safe. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what are your successful case studies with the usage of psychedelics in the workplace? Hi, I'm Nierras, your host of the Your Wordless podcast. Now, if these real raw stories hit home, don't wait. Please follow, like, and subscribe my Spotify and YouTube. For bite-sized inspirational reels, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Don't wait. Your transformation starts today. Thank you, and bye for now.
Yeah. So I see different use cases. So very often it's people who have tremendous anxiety. And that anxiety can manifest in different forms. So, for example, it's people who are afraid of making a mistake. So they're going to work for hours and hours because they're so anxious of making a mistake. So first, they don't enjoy their work, but also they overwork because they're so worried. Second, it's anxiety towards their own performance. They always think that they are not good enough, so they're afraid to ask for
They're
a
not
promotion.
worthy.
Exactly. So it manifests as I'm not going to ask for a promotion. I have people who are not even capable of asking for vacation because they're so afraid that, well, it's going to be
I'm going
perceived
to
the
lose
wrong
my
way.
job.
Exactly. A lot of that is linked as well with limiting belief. Anxiety is more a symptom of things that are not aligned in your life, like depression, actually. If you're thinking you are not worthy, you're rarely relaxed and joyful,
That's right.
you know?
Yeah.
So again, anxiety, depression, it is themselves a symptom of something else. So we use the medicine to also reprogram their brain. Yes, we're calming the body. Yes, we're calming the anxiety. But more importantly, we're reprogramming the limiting belief.
Well,
And and that,
I love that.
that's what's really important. That's why it's more about healing than managing, because if you just work on the anxiety, what is underneath is not really changing. So you want to work on both.
Tell us your journey about using psychedelics and how did that help you really overcome your anxiety
Yeah.
issues?
So, I'm going to take an example. I'm going to take two examples. The first one is that I had a massive neurosis with time management. So let's say that we were supposed to meet at 7. At 6 a.m., I would already be in front of my computer. I would have been,
Okay.
I would have been awake at 5 a.m., like ready to go. I would have prepared all my notes. I would have, like this level of anxiety. So it was extremely challenging because, as you can imagine, my days were extremely long
Yeah.
because I always had to control everything in my schedule. Okay, I need to prepare 15 minutes between this and that. And so I was over preparing. I was constantly watching what time it was.
Mhm.
And that actually very quickly changed. In just, I would say, 6 weeks, I went from, and that's something I had since I was a kid. And that went from literally being hysterical with, oh my God, we're late. I'm going to be late. With, well, we are literally joining at 7. I came at 6:58, and I was not like, oh my God, da. So,
Frantic.
so that created a lot of space in my life. And the thing with microdosing is that you're constantly rebaselining. So sometimes you tend to forget where you're coming from.
Right.
Also, maybe I'm going to look at myself and say, oh, I think I'm still a bit too anxious and a bit too, like worried. And then I'm thinking, well, a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I was in such a different places, but you keep rebaselining for better. So
That's right.
that has really, really helped me. It has helped me a lot also with social anxiety.
Mhm.
So I could not say no. So I was always, yeah, and that's very linked with you are worthy or you're not worthy. If you feel you're not worthy, you're a people pleaser.
Yeah.
You
You have
have
no boundaries set.
no boundaries. You have no, exactly. So that has really helped me. And again, the anxiety being the symptom of you are not worthy. And so it was showing up as people pleasing, no boundaries, not saying no, da da da. So I have been able to also change that. Am I a champion of saying no? Not yet, but way better than before. And that's something I want people who are listening to understand is that you're not becoming the Dalai Lama mixed with Oprah, mixed with whoever you love in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
stage, but you're getting better every day.
That's right. The key is just to take that step and walk through that path, one foot in front of the other. I love
Exactly.
that. Okay. I think we talked a little bit about this, but let's just describe it again for the benefit of our listeners, right? So, what is the microdose diet and what are its benefits?
Yeah, so the microdose diet is the protocol I developed around microdosing psilocybin. So microdosing is a fabulous tool. Is how can I say that? It's going to turbocharge everything you do. So let's say that you're already doing some coaching, or I'm not sure if you're familiar with tapping meditation, like visualization. Yes, exactly, EFT. So microdosing alone is going to bring you to, a nice improvement in your enjoyment of life and a reduction in anxiety. But if you really want to control what you're rewiring your brain with, which I think is important, you want to put in place a protocol with different tools. So, for example, I was talking about removing limiting belief. I love to use EFT tapping for that. So, so the protocol is 90 days and it combines microdosing with multiple exercise week after week, where you're building on a very structured program to bring you from A to B through journaling, visualization, tapping, meditation, and microdosing. So it's really a turnkey program. Think about it as it's a book I wrote, and it's the book I wished I had 20 years ago, because it's a bit of rinse and repeat. It's a how-to guide. Because very often I find self-development books are more about giving you the what, but I'm interested in the how.
How?
I understand that I feel unworthy. Oh, do I change that situation? That's what I'm
Yes,
interested in. And
that's right.
And the book is really about that. It's the turnkey guide on how you bring your worthiness from level 5 to level 6. And actually, the big angle of the book is improving your self-worth. Because and actually it's funny, I posted on that yesterday on TikTok, because I speak about that in public speaking. If your self-worth is low, and I'm speaking to you, you believe that obviously, but if your self-worth is low, well, your results gonna be low. You
That
can
is correct.
you cannot get more than what you believe you deserve.
That is correct.
For the longest time, my career, my life was boom and bust, because my self-worth was very low, but I was working very hard, So
Trying
I
to
was,
prove.
but also trying to get the validation, and
That's
then
right.
I was successful, but then I would self-sabotage. And it be constant, and I would go back to the level of worthiness that was constant with me. So the world was at the same level that my worthiness, which was very low. So it was constantly boom and bust, until I realized, okay, spend more time working on improving your self-worth. And then, because otherwise it's like you're putting the cause, after the symptoms. And
Yeah.
if you just focus on the symptoms, you're not going to progress. So it's really working. I think the worthiness is the foundation of everything. So the book is really how to go from point A to point B with these different tools. And again, worthiness, self-worth as the cornerstone.
Oh, so you are the perfect guest for my show.
Well, listen, self-worth should be the cornerstone of any show. Because at the end of the day, it is the reality of life. If you believe that, I have this saying, in life, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you believe with your whole being you deserve. And it's really that. And it's not about being the best at school, the best at this, the best at that. If you think you're, pardon my French, shit, that's what you're going to get in life.
That is so true. Again, time and time again, this is not the only interview where I've said, because you attract what you are, you don't attract what you want. You see, you
Exactly.
want to be somebody, but then you believe that you're only capable or just deserving of this much. You're gonna attract this much of life experiences, promotion, or not even promotion, even that kind of remuneration that you,
Or
yeah.
you might attract it the way I did, and then you're gonna blow it.
Oh yes, you might, but then you're going against the current. You see,
Exactly.
exerting up extra energy, especially for women. I see that. Like we thrive in saying this. I did it because I worked pardon
Yeah.
my
You're French.
backside. Yeah, yeah, my French. I worked my ass off for this, but at what cost? You see, at what cost? Your health, your family relationships, and and then
It's not sustainable anyway.
no, no, no.
So it's again, and that's what I explain a lot in the books, is that I can spend a lot of time on growing my business by the traditional ways. Making phone calls, sending emails, advertising, absolutely. But if I have not worked on the fact that I'm bringing value, I'm
Yeah,
people, it's important. The message I have to say is important. Maybe I'm going to get 5% of the results because
yeah,
it's linked with my self-worth. And again, I'm sure your listeners understand that. Otherwise, they would not be listening to, that type of podcast. But I think we don't understand that enough. It's
yeah.
really something that is a daily task.
That's right. It's like taking a shower, eat.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's funny you say that. I was obviously taking a shower before we arrived. It's 7:30 a.m. for me. And, I'm removing with my shampoo all the limiting belief, but it's tiring because you need to always be present. It's easier to be on autopilot and just doing the
Yes.
same thing yesterday. But then your life circumstances will never change. If you're happy with your life, that's fine. If you're really happy with your life, that's fine. I have yet to meet anyone really happy with their lives, but maybe they lack imagination. But
Yeah.
and it's not about being unhappy. You want to be happy with your life, but you can be happy with your life and still want more. I think that's
Hmm.
that balance. You can be
Yes.
grateful for what you have and enjoying what you have. I think that's very important, to enjoy what you have, but still thrive for.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. I wanted to add something, but I forgot my train of thought.
Oh, I'm
So
so
it's okay.
sorry I
No, it's
interrupted you.
okay. No, it's gonna come. It's gonna come because if it's important, it is gonna come. So, okay, Peggy, how can microdosing help be more efficient in the workplace?
Yeah. So one of the great advantage of microdosing psychedelics is that it increases your focus. So you're able to really be present. That's why I love to work with microdosing, because it helps being present. And it also increases your creativity. So what I really like is that instead of saying only option A and B, now suddenly you're going to see door C, door D. Because we tend to look at things in a very dual way. It's white or it's black, it's yes or it's no, while very often you have options that
Yeah.
could mix both. We don't see them because we're so much in fear and in anxiety that, that blocks creativity. So everything is very much linked
Hmm.
because, again, if you're very contracted because you're anxious, well, all of that prevents you from being creative. The beauty is really about being in the flow. And that's what microdosing bring you. Is that flow state that we all want more in our lives.
Because when you're in flow, you're not actually doing the work, you're playing
Exactly. Exactly. You're just enjoying being in the moment. You're
in the
not
moment, being
exactly.
present. Yeah.
You're not worrying about, okay, the past, I did that, I said that, the future, or will people perceive whatever I'm doing? You're just enjoying what you're doing. And so microdosing give you more of that. So that is also extremely pleasant.
Hmm.
When you're working, to be in that state where yesterday I was redoing my website and I was just like, I didn't realize 3 hours later, I was still like playing with it. And this morning I was looking, I was like, oh, good job.
Yeah, I've progressed so far. so
exactly.
much.
And it had been on my list, but I was not inspired. When I'm not inspired, I tend to put it aside. Yesterday, I was
Same,
just like, yeah.
same.
Yesterday, I was just like, oh, let's start playing with that. And this morning, I'm like, oh, well, that was fun.
Not bad.
Exactly.
Wow. I think whatever that you're saying has been music to my ears because I've worked a lot as well on myself. Like I've been
Mhm.
in burnout. I've been in toxic organizations before this right now. And also the impetus of my podcast is because of that.
Mhm.
I felt worthless in my relationship, both in my relationship and my organization, the people that I was attached with. So I mean, hearing guests saying this, it just reaffirms that I I'm in flow when I'm talking.
Yeah,
Like I
exactly.
yeah,
You're in your zone of genius,
that is
like
correct.
that.
I was just
That's
about to say that zone
Yeah,
of
that's what
genius.
you're supposed to do. And, it's interesting because I joined a coaching program recently and I really like it because I don't really do a lot of group activities when it comes to personal development. Because in the past, even when I was at school, I thought it was so slow to work in a group, and you always have like the frequent flyer who's always asking question or the thing that is irrelevant for everyone, but he or she's going to spend 20 minutes. So I really don't like working in groups. And so I was like, okay, that seemed very interesting. That lady was only offering group coaching, so I'm like, I have no choice if I want to work with her. And it has been extremely validating, actually, because I've heard many people like you saying, well, I don't feel I'm recognized in my job or in my activities. And I was like, oh, okay, so I'm not the only one feeling that way. And when I love that you're doing that podcast because you're honestly talking about, being in burnout, not being happy in your organization, and at the same time, you're showing an example that there is something else people can do. But when we're isolated, it's a bit difficult to realize that we're
There is
all
another
having,
way out. Like yeah,
if
yeah.
there is another way out, but also I am normal. That is the human experience.
This
It's not me being awful, stupid,
or just not worthy to be
just not
yeah
worth it.
to
Yeah.
be having this experience. Like why me, right? Yeah. I love it. Okay. So, what professionals have seen the benefits of psilocybin? Becoming a podcast host was a natural extension of my second act. Now, after spending 15 years in the corporate world, I've transitioned to helping individuals overcome challenges like navigating tough relationships, career burnout, and aligning their mission with their soul's calling. By certifying as an RTT hypnotherapist and a lifestyle coach, I've made it my mission to empower people to recreate the life they deserve and building a supportive community through my podcast. Now, let me ask, are you facing challenges like struggling to reprogram your mind to attract wealth, weight issues that feel like a constant yo yo, insomnia or restless nights from daily worries, or just a lack of confidence in public speaking? If the answer is yes, visit www.thenierrasholisticlifestyle.com and grab a free hypnosis audio of these common struggles. It's a sneak peek into how my coaching works. Are you feeling shy? Don't be, because I'm as real as it gets. Let's connect on Instagram and LinkedIn and start your transformation today.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, I used to work in finance and I was investing in technology companies. So, I would say it's a bit a catch-22 because my network was already a lot of people in finance and a lot of people in technology. So, a lot of the people who are working with me, whether buying the products, buying the book, coaching, all of that, they tend to be in finance and they tend to be in technology. I don't think that it is because it is where there is the most benefit. I think it's just because that's where I
You
was, to be
started,
on.
yeah.
Exactly. And people feel the connection. They're like, oh, she's going to understand us because she went through the same journey, the same career, But I'm actually interested in working with more people who have artistic career because the creativity might, but also education, government, people who are working in this big structure. Because
Yes.
I think you need to have people everywhere, because the more aware, the more worthy, the more the organizations will
The
change.
more, and then the more impact is gonna bring, the ripple
Exactly.
is gonna be bigger from that person, especially if you have, how do I say this, penetrate into the big structure and then they start adopting that, and then it's just gonna be, yeah, the impact is gonna be like a
Yeah,
tornado.
exactly, exactly. And so what I'm doing, because the challenge with psilocybin is that in many places it is still illegal. So
Mhm.
it is a bit difficult as well for some organization, rightfully so, to be talking about psilocybin. So what I'm doing is that the clinic that developed the product for me, we're working on a product that would mimic the effects of the psilocybin, but only with ingredients that today are legal everywhere. So
Oh,
that would be easier to actually spread the message, because the concept of microdosing is great because, as I said, it ties together all the tools. But what is very important for me is the message. And it's really this idea, again, increase your self worth, look at the root cause. I don't know how things are in Malaysia, but here in North America, people have been on antidepressant and anti-anxiety
for the
medication for like
longest
10,
time.
15, 20, 25. It's just insane.
That's right.
And it's not something, first, it's very bad for your health, but you're not addressing the root cause. You're not changing anything. And by having a product that is legal, I think it's going to help me to get in more organizations because it's going to be a message that is legal.
Yeah, when you were, I can you like break it down for me and the listeners, like what is actually the difference of psychedelics and psilocybins? Like, is there an overlap? Yeah.
Yeah, so psychedelics is the overall group. So that can be magic mushroom, which is equal to psilocybin. It can be LSD. It can be so LSD. Some people call it acid.
Yeah, acid.
It exactly. It can be MDMA. Some people call it ecstasy. So psychedelic is a bigger group. I focus only on magic mushroom first because I like the fact that it's natural. Otherwise the other ones are more obviously LSD.
Chemicals. Yeah.
Exactly, but also it's easier to access, and it is easier to control the quality, and it tends to be pretty cheap. So all of that made it really my, I would say, psychedelic of choice. So you're absolutely right. There is a difference. Psilocybin is a type of psychedelics.
Right. Okay. So it's like another umbrella, a subset of
Exactly.
psychedelic.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Now, and I think you touched a little bit about legalization, right? So the question here, what are some of the insights into the legalization and practical use of psychedelics in everyday life?
Yeah. So if we more, let's look first at legalization. So what's been happening, and actually I have to say I'm in Canada, but in the US, there has been a big, big push by politicians because their veterans and their first responders have tremendous mental health problems. So you see
Oh,
huge rate of suicide, addiction, homelessness, all of that. So that became the impetus
mhm.
to look at other options because they realized that what we had was not working. So that is when psychedelics came out of the boxes and people are like, well, we have that thing that used to work pretty well. So now that whole conversation is actually driven by veterans organization, by politicians, both Republican and Democrat. Actually, it's probably one of the few things they agree on. you know. And
Finally, I mean,
if that comes with that, I'm happy. I'm happy about
yeah,
it. So you see states in the US that have actually legalized some psychedelics. You have some states that are legalizing the use in the context of a medical oversight.
right.
You have some states that are still, and all the states are doing clinical studies, are doing, new legislation. So right now you're a bit in that gray zone where it is changing, but it is not homogeneous. Canada is the same, so you you're on the cusp.
On the
But
cusp.
will it be in 1 year, in 5 years, in 10 years? We don't know. And what would be the exact shape? We don't know either. Because what I'm afraid of is that big pharma will put their big paws on it, you
Yes.
know, and will find a way to make it as a prescribed drugs. And the self-serve will not be allowed like it is right now in most places. So you have no choice than to go through your doctor and to pay a medication to big pharma. So that is yet to see. But that's in terms of legality, that's where we are. And it depends on some countries. So you have countries like in Europe, for example, they are not even looking at it.
Meaning,
So I'm from France.
right.
There is no clinical studies happening on that.
It's strictly,
It's they look at it as a drug. They don't look at it as a medicine, and there is absolutely no, I don't know why, because they also have a lot of mental health problem over there.
yeah.
But for whatever reason, and maybe because the pharmaceutical industry is also so strong over there is absolutely no push to go in this direction. So it depends as well on the geography. Again, in North America, we were lucky, and I'm crossing my fingers because I'm not sure you can say lucky, but that's because of a veterans problem. It's becoming mainstream. So that's the legal part. And when you're talking about the daily usage, well, the daily usage is really about your microdosing, as I said, every 2 or 3 days, depending on, I do every 3 days. Some people do every 2 days. Some people do Monday to Friday. But I'm more of a light touch type of microdoser. And I would talk more about benefits. So we talk about the benefits of mental health. So reduction in anxiety, depression, mood boost. We talk about performance, which is more attention, more creativity. The third bucket,
Flow.
exactly, the flow. And the third bucket is a better connection to yourself and to others. And that is great in terms of self-development, spirituality. So I would say when you look at the daily usage, it can be as great for a parent who want to be better at dealing with his children, the CEO of a company who wants to be more in the flow. I would say a young adult who's starting his family, his career, maybe has a lot of pressure and who feels a lot of anxiety. So I would say the medicine is the same, schedule dosage is the same, but based on your life, my life, where we are, it's going to have different benefits and implications.
And usage as well.
And also what you're doing on the side, because some people are doing more practices, as I said, coaching, tapping, things like that. So you're going to see obviously more benefits if you are doing more activities to heal than if you're just microdosing. That's obvious. Yeah.
I love it. Now I can say that term microdoser. I love it when you said I'm a microdoser. So yeah, okay.
So what is the situation in Malaysia? Is it something people look at, or is it like in France? Okay, yes, I'm sorry.
I was in States. Yeah. For the benefit of that, I did. Yeah. I'm more of a microdoser as well. So in the States I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you like the
Oh yeah.
yeah,
I
did
love
you
it.
see a difference? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
I love it. All the at first I didn't manage the intake, so I took like a big chunk and then I was like, I was on
Yeah.
a subway and I
Yeah.
got disoriented for a little bit. But
Yeah.
had I taken it in the house, in a safe space, it is chef's
Yeah.
kiss. Yeah.
Well, and it's really, and you're pointing it out. If I look at the mistakes people do
Mhm.
when they microdose,
Right.
and I'm talking really about microdosing for the daily life,
Mhm.
not an experience. Very often, they don't validate the quality of the product. So they're going
Mm.
to have products that are not great. And I had people who I'm not even sure what they were taking were psychedelic mushroom. I think that could have been like kitchen mushroom, and then they're like, oh, it's not working. I'm like, what are you taking? I don't know. I'm like, well, if you're eating shiitake mushroom, yeah, I don't think it's going to work very well. So that's the first problem. The second problem is the dosage, where you
Mm.
take too much.
Yeah.
I had people who were telling me, well, I don't really feel a state of flow. I feel high. And they're taking 3 times the dose I recommend. I'm like, wow, yes,
Yeah.
of course, yeah.
Of course you'd feel that way.
And the third problem is the frequency. If you take too often, so
Yeah.
instead of taking every 2 or 3 days, you're taking every day, that is too much for your system. So it is funny because very often people are going to tell me, oh, microdosing doesn't work for me. And when I probe a little bit, well, they're using shitty products, they're taking too much, they're taking it too often, or they're taking randomly. So they're going
Yes.
to take like the first of the month, the 25th, then next month they're going to take it 5 times. I'm like, if you were to take your omega-3 or your vitamin C like that, would you expect good results? No. Well, that's the same. You don't take your pill, your birth control pill like that. Oh, well, so it's the same. So it's funny to see people don't understand that it is a medicine. So you need to have the same rigor
Mhm.
in using it.
Yeah. Yeah. And just being aware and be intentional when we
Exactly.
take these things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whew. Okay, Peggy, what are you working on currently?
Yeah, so what I'm working on, that's what I was mentioning, is that new medicine that is mimicking psychedelics, but that is not psychedelics because I think that will open up many people to look into that. So that is one bucket. The second bucket is public speaking. I'm doing more public speaking just to, spread the love and explain a bit more. I think it's easier for people when they see you on stage because after they ask you questions, they might buy the book. And so for me, it's really about that new product, but also continuing to spread the message for people's awareness of microdosing. Yeah.
And I wanted to circle back on the fact that you said you're creating something that is mimicking psychedelic, right? So, what are the components? I mean, it may be proprietary, confidential, but
Yeah.
then is it like is it chemical? Is it still natural based? I mean,
Yeah. So
plant
a lot
based.
of that is mushroom based,
Okay.
not magic mushroom, but
Right.
mushroom based because you have a lot of mushrooms are super powerful. I mean, that's been around forever and that's one of the most resistant organisms on earth.
That is correct.
So yeah, so you have a lot of benefits even from non-psychedelic mushrooms. So what we're really looking at is the type of combination that can, you know, calm your nervous system, lift your mood, and help you get in that state of flow. So, it's what I see so far is that it will require a bit more product. So, for example, with microdosing, you take 1 cup every 3 days. Here, you're probably going to have to take 2 cups every day.
Because
So
it's
that's
yeah,
because there is so it's going to be probably, and psychedelics really work very quickly.
that's
Here
right.
it might take a bit longer. So it's going to be probably a bit more product for a bit longer in order to
To
get
compensate for that
exactly,
effect.
exactly,
I
exactly.
love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I'm interested.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to ship internationally. It's going to be legal. So,
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god, I am rooting for you. I cannot wait for this to be on the shelf now. So when do you expect this to be? Is it already out or?
No, so we're working right now with the clinic and the manufacturer who would actually produce the new medicine. So, we're already in October. So if we're lucky, December, but probably January. Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna hit, and it's gonna hit the US, the Americas, and then
Yes. So
first.
usually, we ship to Canada and the US
Mm-hmm.
with that product today. So the new product, we will probably start with Canada and the US, and then we'll see how things go a bit more international. Yeah.
Ooh, wow, it's aligning. I am planning to relocate to the States next year. So hopefully I'll be able to get
Fabulous.
my hands on your
Yeah.
product.
Ah, that's great. Where would you relocate? Oh, New York? Okay, I saw that behind you. So it's almost your vision board. Like you're looking
Exactly.
at it.
I
I
just
love
got
it.
this. I just came back like a week ago and I got this
Right.
and I'm gonna put it, and that is like that's the vision. So I'm working
I love
towards
it.
that.
I love it. Well, good luck. Good luck with that. Yeah, yeah. I saw
Thank
it and I
you.
was like, there must be something. I don't know. I could feel there was something here. Okay,
You
that's
felt
great.
it, right?
Yeah, I was like, something. And when you mentioned the US, I'm like, maybe there is something or someone over there. So that's
And
great. I'm happy for you.
thank you so much. And also what I did was I made it a point to create some connections because most of my guests are from the US. I have in Canada everywhere, but mostly the US. Yeah, I plan to stay in contact, stay in touch with all of my guests, including yourself, since you're in Canada.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe, who knows? We're connected via
Exactly.
LinkedIn.
I go to New York once in a while, so and maybe
I'll
you'll
be
end up
visiting. I've
in
never visited
Toronto.
Canada.
Yeah,
Toronto,
yeah, yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah, Toronto. Yeah,
Toronto.
it's very easy. 2-hour flight, an hour and a half. So
Well,
very, very
okay.
easy.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you, Nicolette. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for being
Yeah,
here, for
that
reaching
was
out.
great.
I love it.
No, that
Okay,
was fabulous.
few more questions, Peggy, before I can let you go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What is your heart's greatest wish?
I would say self-empowerment for people, and I think that's probably the biggest problem we have right now is that we're mostly on autopilot. And it's very difficult to grow and really become self-actualize when you're on autopilot. And that's why I really like also microdosing, because it tends to bring that
Centers you, grounds you.
exactly. And it brings a bit of disruption as well. So that allows you to look at things differently. And I think that's very important. Yeah.
Okay, Peggy, if you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening and the world as your legacy, what would it be?
Yeah, it will be what we were discussing. In life, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you deserve with what you believe you deserve with your whole being. And that's important. It's like you can work your ass off. If you believe you don't deserve it, it's not going to come, or it's going to come and you're going to lose it. So really work on your belief system first as a foundation.
Whew, I love it. Peggy, how can people reach out to you?
So they can find me on my website, my new website that I redid last night. So it's called The Microdose Diet, and they can Google my name. They can see it in the podcast. I'm sure it's on your notes. They can Google my names. They'll find all my socials and all of that. So they can, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on everything. So they can, if they don't find me, that means they're not looking.
Somewhere. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Awesome. And there you have it, guys. You heard it from the person herself, Peggy Van De Plassche. Before we close off, I'd like to thank you, Peggy, for the work that you're doing for the world and for advancing every step of the way despite the challenges, creating trails for those that will come after you. And for our listeners, this has been that one podcast with that controversial name, You're Worthless. Read that again. The juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, if you find yourself thinking that you are worthless, you are probably not alone. But more importantly, ask yourself a level deeper. If I'm worthless, then why the heck am I here? It is because your soul have chosen to be here energetically, and that is all the way from the ethers. And for that reason itself, you are worthy and you are enough. This has been Peggy Van De Plassche, your guest of the day, and Nick Nierras, your host, signing off. Thank you so much, Peggy, for your time.
Thank you so, so much. It was fabulous. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.